All right, so okay, back up, just cut that out. All right, so a lot of you have questions about when I was a nurse. I guess you're always a nurse, but I've gotten a lot of questions just about maybe you heard that I was a nurse and you were curious about what departments I worked in and such, so I thought I'd answer that today. So, nursing. So, believe it or not, I went into interior design my first year of college, and I just felt like I already had that knack. I grew up in kind of that household, and I decided to tell my parents, I'm like, you know what, I think you're wasting your money. I really feel like I know everything about that, which I don't. So from there, I started working for a physician, answering the phones while I was in college, just for side money. Plus I had nannied for them before. So from there, he had a nurse go out one day and was like, can you help me with this little office procedure? And I was like, ooh, I like the blood, I like the guts, the gore, give it to me. So then I went back to school and was like, I think I'm gonna be a nurse. My parents were like, what? So I went and did that. I went to school in Florida at FAU. Took some classes at a little community college before that because I was like, do I want to do this? I was always very careful to spend my parents' money. I've always been just really cautious about that and thoughtful. So I was like, I just want to make sure I really want to get into this. So I set forth on that. I did it. I did a traveling nursing program. I went to Reston, Virginia, worked in Reston Hospital Center, met some fantastic nurses there that were more around my mom's age, so they kind of took me in. I lived there for 10 months and did that. I worked in outpatient surgery. I was a phlebotomist. I drew all the blood. That was fun. That was more of a grandfathered in position, so I was really fortunate to be able to work kind of in that department. I loved that. Then went back home to Florida, and I started working at West Boca Medical Center. I worked there for a while. I floated around med surg. I was in the ER for a little bit. I do postpartum. I didn't have children at the time, of course, was not married, and peds was really hard for me. So I just kind of stuck with the ER, really love the fast pace. I'm good under pressure. I love helping people. The thing I liked most about nursing was being able to sit on the edge of the bed, put my hand on their knee, kind of hear them out and what their fears were and kind of encourage them through whatever they were going through. Unfortunately, with nurses, as you know, if you're a nurse, very understaffed, there's not enough of us. And that was just the hard part. Then charting came into play over the computer, and I just spent so much time doing that. I ended up getting married, moving out to Seattle, and I was in a position where I didn't have to work at that time, but I loved it so much that I wanted to still pursue it, but I would have had to go back to working nights and weekends. And you know, as a nurse, once you get out of that, you're like, I don't want to go back there. So I ended up settling in and kind of becoming a little more domestic and getting started with my family. So I stopped nursing, had Lily. And then Steve and I started a bunch of different kinds of charities with children's hospitals, Thanksgiving dinners, Halloween parties, Mother's Day events. And that really gave me the opportunity to be in the hospital setting, give my time, be with these sweet children and these families, while not necessarily being paid or working as a nurse. So to answer your question, I love nursing. That's basically my story. I've been out of it now. Gosh, Lily is 14, so a long time. So I know things have changed. People do ask me if I'd ever consider going back. And I thought about it from time to time, but here I am helping people in a different way. So another question that's come in recently is my husband played in the NFL for 12 years. We've been together for a long time. You can go back on the website and read our love story. We've been together since the 8th grade. So the NFL and NFL wives and being in the limelight and in this like high profile position and of course can come a lot of insecurities, I think. And I've always been a pretty confident person. I love myself and I loved my husband. But it was kind of an interesting time where I can see where the questions come in, like, how did you deal with that? Of course, there's lots of women throwing themselves at your husband, right? You're always at an event. Everything's about them. They're in the spotlight and on the camera and on the playing field. And they're all of a sudden overnight become a celebrity. So my husband's position is the offensive line, which those boys are just kind of corn-fed, just good old boys. Aren't a very high profile, very glitzy position, let's say like a quarterback or a running back or something like that. So for me, I had a good man, not to say that any of these other men aren't good, but sometimes, we know the stories. There's a lot of temptation with this kind of job and a lot of travel. So what I decided early on was just to remain confident, continue to put into our marriage, date my husband. The thought did go through my mind a lot of the times, like just keeping up with style and keeping my body in shape and just, think about that. You're here, there's lots of distractions, lots of little shiny things all of a sudden. So I just decided to keep it real tight and right at home. And I loved cooking and just kind of putting back into my home. And I think you need to walk into the room and know who you are. And when you start doubting yourself or thinking or letting your mind run away, I think it causes more of a problem in a marriage than just remaining confident and being like, he loves me, I love him, we got this, we're gonna do it together. So that's kind of my whole thought on how I dealt with that. But this is a question I get and did get when he was playing a lot. And I think just knowing who you are and continuing to feed what you two had already built together. And I think this really can apply to anything. So many of your husbands work or travel and all of that. I think when they come home, they just, they want you and they want a confident, they don't want you, accusing them, if you will, and like, well, do you love me? That stuff just starts to play on people, and I think it can hurt you more than it can help you. So that's what I know on that. Here's another question coming in about parenting. I get this one a lot, and I know so many of you are in the thick of it. You are in it to win it right now. You are outnumbered. You are, your body's not the same. You're tired. You have little ones hanging at you constantly. They're crying. It's just a lot. And I was there, and I'm just here to tell you that you will come out on the other side of it. I promise. I know right now you're like, Lord, help me. Where's the light in the tunnel? But I'm telling you, it's there. Some piece of advice I can give you, and something that someone told me very early on, was one little book, one simple book called Baby Wise. I was at my first baby shower, and one of my girlfriends and I had another mom say, oh my gosh, I'm doing Baby Wise. And of course, I'm like, what's Baby Wise? So it's a little paperback book about yay big, maybe $12. It'll be the best $12 you ever spent. It's about sleep training. It's about teaching your children how to self-soothe on their own. It's really a manual, a Bible, if you will, to keep your life the way it's been running, and don't let the baby take over. Really. It is a lot of tough love. So if you don't think you can do that, I want you to try. But it was the best piece of advice. It was a book that I bought for myself. I bought one for my husband. That was what we were told to do, is buy two, both read it, both understand it, both be on the same page. It's a really hard thing, especially when you're sleep deprived, you've got a newborn, and you've got this sweet baby, and all you want to do is just love on it. So the basics of the book is you're to have this baby, come home from the hospital, love on it, sleep, have all the company in the world you want, let people make you dinner, just ooh and ah over the baby, dress it up, undress it, just enjoy it for 2 weeks. Then on the start of the third week, that is when the real shit sets in. So you have to get this book. In the back, they kind of, each chapter will go back through and give you kind of little bullet points on things you need to work on. But it's basically a sleep-wake cycle, sleep-wake feed in some particular order there. But I'm telling you guys, I did that, and my kids were sleeping through the night at 11 weeks. I kid you not. And as a new parent, a good night's sleep is like, you can do anything. You really can do anything. You can start to get yourself back on track. You can feel good about, getting dinner and getting back in a routine, and just knowing what the baby's going to do, and the baby knows what you're going to do. And they need boundaries. Even at that young of an age, they need a routine. It is so important. I can't stress this enough. Like, if you buy one thing or do one thing that I say, and you're about to have children or have had a child or about to, or you're pregnant, this book is for you. It's a godsend. It saved our lives. And I've had babysitters years beyond compliment us all the time and say, your kids are so well behaved. They have a great disposition. They sleep so well. People love babysitting my children. They had great disposition and mannerisms when they were toddlers. They were never, now mind you, they've thrown themselves on the floor and done all those sorts of tantrums. But at the end of the day, they were very calm. I could lay them down awake and they would put themselves to sleep. It was just easy. I could write down a schedule for someone that was watching my kids and they would know that at that time that was going to happen and everything was perfect. So I would just really suggest baby-wise is